All right, thank you, everyone. At this time, I'd ask, is there any agenda additions or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add an executive session after the meeting of personnel matter.
At the end.
Look at that. Yep, at the end. For 15 minutes.
Okay. Anybody have any problem with that?
After concerns, then?
Yeah, after concerns.
Mhm.
I'd ask for approval of the November 13th minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
I'd like to be noted I wasn't here.
Okay, for the record. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? George and I have to sign that. Driveway permit under highway.
We have one driveway permit on Cobb Road for John Colvin, or Tim Colvin, excuse me. And it's the new house. That new building he
Yeah.
just installed, to have access to that building.
And just to be clear, it's Cobb, it's not Middle Road.
That's Cobb Lane.
Top lane.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Not Middle Road.
Because I know we ran into that
Yep.
before.
Yep.
Yep.
Off Cobb Lane, where the new house just went into
Yep.
the new structure,
Okay.
like that. I looked at it, there's no requirements for any culvert or anything, it's pretty level and flat, well drained soil.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing on all in favor of the permit, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Next I have, okay, at the transfer station, we pulled out a old compactor out of the office. The big orange chunk of steel.
Plastic one that they use?
No, it's the steel one.
The old baler.
Big old baler.
Got it.
It's about the size of this table, 5 feet tall. They used to use it for the workbench previously. That is now setting in the storage shed in the other pole barn. I would like to know any suggestions, what you'd like to do with it, I don't know if anybody uses that kind of stuff anymore.
We
Or
had it
should
listed, right?
So we never listed it.
I thought we listed it on Craigslist.
No, we never did.
That's when Katie was here.
That would be my first recommendation.
Okay.
Get it listed and see if we can sell it.
Yeah,
Sure,
and
why
it's
not?
non-operate.
So I was gonna say, does it work?
They couldn't get it to work. The boys tried plugging it in. I wasn't there right there when they were doing it. They tried plugging it in and they couldn't get it to work. I don't know what it takes to, if it's just the motor seized up or what, or whatever.
As is.
Thing is, sell as is,
Yep.
and
Somebody may buy it for parts.
we can, figure out, what's worth for scrap too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it weighs a ton or something or whatever.
I mean, I'd try to list it, see if we could sell it as is, and if we can't, scrap it.
You have an idea where we want to start with? 500.
I
1,000,
guess I'd do
600.
do a little research, see what they go for, and
Go for it. And
That thing is so old though.
I wish I could find the manufacturer of that, maybe the company that did build it or whatever could.
Bob, that was put in there 2 years, weren't it, Bob? 2 years after we opened that?
Yeah.
So that thing's been there. And then they added on when,
There's 2 sections to it.
yeah.
It's been there a while. But
I-
the way things are going, it could be more now than it was
Back in
5
the
years
day.
ago.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it was bigger and we use it for cardboard, but that's way out of the picture.
yeah, it's too small for that.
So a recommendation to run on Craigslist, do a little research on it,
Yep,
see if I can get a name off it somewhere somehow to find out what name it is.
that's what I would
That
do.
kind of stuff.
Okay.
We can
Might
work.
even find out how much it weighs by doing that, and then you can, compare what you can do metal-wise versus,
Get for scrap versus what you're gonna get otherwise.
right?
Also contact like Casellas and stuff like this to see if they'd wanna be interested in buying it.
Or they might have another resource or something is where they go.
I called the solid waste district before I called them.
What is that?
Yeah.
Ash? Solid waste?
Yep.
Okay.
Take some pictures of it.
Okay.
Anything else on the highway?
No, we're getting all the equipment ready to go for, hopefully we don't have much snow here come Thanksgiving. But
I hope not.
hopefully picking a truck up out of Williston tomorrow. That's had some hydraulic issues.
Which truck?
The Western Star.
West, of course.
For us.
Anybody have any questions for the road commissioner? All right, approval of select board warrants. They were already over here. Did everybody sign them? Okay. So if everybody signed them, then we're all good with it. Okay. No guests tonight, except John and possibly Bronson. Did he say
He's running late. He said he won't be able to get here till 7,
till 7?
but we can talk when we get down to that.
All right, public comments, any public comments? Yes, Marge?
I got some on the town plan, but is that gonna be an issue, something coming up?
Yeah, that's
And are we gonna be allowed to say something at that point?
Well,
I'd like to defer my public comments to that point of the town plan.
well, we could jump down there real quick. So why don't we do that?
If Bronson's coming in on the town plan, perhaps we should wait.
That's what his discussion's gonna be about, the town.
I assume so.
That's on voting. Why he decided he didn't wanna vote for these. All right, so we're gonna have to stick around here till 7 o'clock?
he said unless you table it till next time.
That sounds like a plan to me. Let's go with it and
But let's see. I mean, I'm more than willing to say let's see where we end up. And
Make the decision at that point.
Okay,
but yes, he said that that's what he was coming for, was for the town plan.
okay. Let's go under new business, transfer station discussion.
Sorry, John, we tried to get you out of here quicker.
And he's not here to talk about it. What,
You don't spend enough time.
You
down
guys
here,
have,
so,
I think, enough.
few more hours, no big deal.
I'm not
I
working
mean,
60
what do you
hours.
want to talk about during this?
all right, briefly, when we had budget meeting, the last meeting, we discussed the fact that the transfer station was, over budget by 80,000, I believe, that's what,
No, the total expenditure was 80,000,
okay.
with 11 or 10 reduced by income.
income revenue.
All right, and we just kind of put out there that, well, do we want to discuss dating what the costs are so that we can charge people for bringing the trash in there to knock that down a little bit, or do we consider cutting the hours, or do we consider getting a hold of contractors and let the contractors do that so that we are not covered in the budget?
Mr. Chairman, I have a few pieces of information that might be interesting to have prior to the discussion you're proposing.
Okay.
First off, the thing that I'm concerned about is that when we have stuff going to the transfer station, we're charging by volume instead of weight, and so volume can vary depending on how large your bag is and what you got in it. And so that is one item that would be a place to maybe tighten up the operation some. Now, as I look at this right now, in year 24, we had expenses for us, for salaries and stuff, $35,145. And then we were paying Casella that year $50,000 for their services. I'm on page 3 of 14.
Yep.
Top of the page there.
Yep.
Now, if you take the $80,000, which was the total expenses that we had, roughly that year, I guess, if you add those two figures, and if you take the number of tax bills that are sent out is around 1,300. If you do that division, what it gives you is a figure that each person, could be attributed to that house or business or whatever, would be $61 for the year. And I don't know, I was hoping Gloria would be here because I wanted to ask her. I know she takes some sort of a record when people buy the red cards in terms of how many red cards, like for instance, I have bought in a year's time. But $61.54, if it came to that amount of money a year, I mean, hell, I'd pay $100 a year and not worry about whatever. And if it's $1,300 and we each paid $100 a year, that would be $130,000 that the town would take in with fees for the trash. So that's something to think about. Now,
So George, before you keep going, just so I follow you, you're saying if we went to just a flat fee on the tax bill,
yeah, that's one.
is what you're saying.
One option.
Okay. All right. I follow you.
And then taking a look at year 24 again, we paid Casella $54,421 and change. And if you did that same division, that means for each house or business or whatever, it would be $41.86 for that year that the town would need to kind of be in a break-even position. So those are just some very rough figures to give you a perspective of what's going on. Now, looking at individual things, for trash in the year 24, the total Casella cost was $14,658.61. That includes the trash and the hauling and the picking, all incidental expenses related to the trash and the compact stuff. Now, in garbage, Casella charges $780 for that year. Recycling, it was $3,077.39, and cardboard was, if I got it right here, $64 for that year. So the point I'm trying to make with these figures is that some of those things that we were looking at from other towns, they're charging like $1 to drop your recyclables. That would pay for the, some of the expenses that are associated with moving it. And the same thing for the garbage. I'm talking food scraps. They charge $1, whatever, so on and so forth. So that's how some of the folks are making the recyclables and the trash collection a little bit more friendly for income. Now, the other thing that I thought about is we've said briefly we ought to think about having some contract service out, which would work. But my concern there is, as a taxpayer, that, okay, if we have a service coming in here and we're paying whatever they want, they're obviously going to want to make a profit from us, the taxpayers. So why would I want to pay somebody to get rid of my trash and they're making a profit on it, when I think that we ought to be smart enough in our town to make it work better than it is now? So that's all I've got to say at this point.
Well,
Answer any questions.
I'll say one thing. I've never seen government do anything to make money. So even local government, we're not going to make money. It's not going to happen.
Well, I wasn't proposing that we make it. I was trying to propose that we don't.
Well, that's why contractors make money and towns don't. Because contractors they're in business to make money. That's their thing. The town is never going to make money on that transfer station. It's not going to happen.
Morris, did you have?
Yeah, as George said, had a tax flat rate when we pay our taxes. You're gonna find people are gonna put a lot more trash in there if you're not charging them. They're gonna, it's gonna end up costing us probably more.
Of course.
And also, some of us don't use the
I was
transfer.
gonna say, you're gonna see a lot of people who pay Casella to pick up. They're not gonna be happy to see an amount on their tax bill that they're paying for garbage.
That's where,
I'm one of them.
Yeah, see?
But it's still probably a lot less to go to the transfer station than it would be for your pickup.
Yeah, but I don't have to go to the transfer station.
Well, right, so
Well,
that's
but it's
that
so much
$100 that you're gonna
Come
pay to not,
It's
right?
Saturday morning adventure.
But he doesn't wanna pay Casella to pick up and pay the town.
Right.
He's not gonna want
I'm
that.
subsidizing everybody else's garbage.
Right,
and actually I'm doing the same thing with a dumpster at the farm.
right.
I pay $140 a month.
Businesses that have dumpsters aren't gonna be happy.
I think there's two issues, and I realize a lot of this is budget discussions, just because this reared its head in the budget. We've got a couple different factors at play, and I don't know if we actually have done the research yet to know when it happened last, but we have not raised the rate at the transfer station. I would venture to guess in at least 10 years, it might even be 15.
It's been a while.
So if
Yeah.
it's been that long, because I know for a fact the rates at the transfer station have not gone up since I've sat on this board, and that's a long time,
Bob and I can both
longer
tell
than
you,
I want to talk
when we
about.
first opened that up, we put a price on there. The only addition that I know of, or not so much an addition, subtraction, was the fact that our bottles recycling we didn't charge there for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
Well, so going back to that, based on that information, we haven't even kept up with inflationary costs because we haven't touched it in that long. So, going back and I had some help, George, but doing some calculations of, first off, we've talked about the cards have to be punched.
Yep.
And they've got to be punched at the appropriate punch level for the bag that's being dropped. So on our website, it's listed that a 30-gallon
It's what, 2 punches?
is technically 2 punches. A kitchen bag is one,
punch.
and then anything bigger, like your 50-gallon drum bags, are supposed to be 3 punches. So if you're going at those rates,
It would certainly
Just-
increase revenue, I suspect.
well, just to cover, but it's a twofold problem. Just to cover, and this is very loose math, and I don't have the equation to put on the board for you, but to cover it, even begin to cover the salaries and the hauling costs and the disposal costs, our cards have to double in value
At least,
to start with.
yes.
So
And then you have to be able to see where we end up. That's that means they have to double in value, and they have to be punched appropriately for the size bag as we list.
Yep.
And right now, so we've got a double whammy against us right now, because we know that we're not punching appropriately for bags, and we know that the cards aren't collecting the revenue they need to collect to even break even on expenses. So,
And that information that's in that folder down there, yeah, it shows what the towns are charging, but it doesn't have any, you have no idea whether the town is, that
Doing
town
well or not.
is subsidizing like we are or not. They
Yep.
probably are.
So there is an email in there from Wallingford, and they are half. So like, you know,
So they're losing money too.
they're
they are
losing money, but not quite as bad.
Not
right.
as bad as
I mean,
us.
we were at 3,900, I believe, for what we've spent or what we've earned this year there, and we've spent 39,000. So, you know, there's a big difference. That's not quite
Gigantic
half. Yeah.
The other thing that came up too, and this was something we talked about in budget last time, is the system ensuring that only Clarendon residents are using it. Ultimately, is not really. It's theoretically in place, but I don't think we've ever really followed. There hasn't been a follow up in quite some time to make sure that it really is Clarendon residents, because I mean, we talked about subsidizing, right? I mean, that grinds my gears if we find out that,
People from out of
our
town.
tax dollars are subsidizing Rutland City people coming down and using our transfer station that we're operating at a loss.
It is of past residents of the town. I've seen it.
Well, we know that. We've already identified that. We talked about that in budget time. That last budget session, we talked about the
When I
fact
wasn't
that we know and we can document that we know that past residents are still coming and using it. So,
And
Bob, when
other
we
town
first-
residents are going to use ours if our prices are less than the town that they live
Sure.
in.
Sure.
They're going to come here.
Bob, when we first opened that, we had a sticker that, remember, we used to put
I
on,
was just gonna ask you.
well, it's still
Yes.
listed on the website. It
How
still
m- how-
says that on the website. That
We
that's
still
what
have
we
them.
do.
They still have them. The town, Gloria's got them.
Still on there.
How
but we're
many
not
of them
doing it.
stickers are being sold now? If I recall, we used to charge, what, $1 a piece for them?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
But they haven't been updated and haven't been. I mean, they're like some towns change the color every year. Like you got to get this year's is a red one, so you got to have the red sticker in your window to use the transfer station. And if you don't, clearly you haven't gone to the town clerk and verified your residency and gotten your
Yeah.
permit to use the transfer station.
Let me throw in another issue here.
curveball.
If everything is coming in a bag, that's fine, the size of the bag and
Sure.
whatever. But I've been there and have gotten rid of waste wood in a remodeling project, and so I've seen other people do the same thing. Or they bring in plastic, what do you call it, stuff for the kitties litter, and that's not in the bag. So we gotta figure out that, which is why I think in terms of the weight versus the volume is a more, but then you gotta have somebody weigh it and charge them right there, that's
But we
the
gotta
issue
pay
there.
for a new scale and all this other stuff that goes along
Well, the
with it.
scale is not a problem, it's the issue of somebody keeping track of it.
I mean, you gotta weigh the difference of the amount of effort and
Yeah,
work that we're gonna require. I mean, we are.
yeah,
I guess my thought, and then the other flip side of this that we haven't even gotten to yet, is the fact that we're relatively fresh we're only a year in on a new Casella contract.
yep.
So we've got all of that. That's the flip side of this too. So we've got kind of the perfect storm going on right now that we got to figure out how do we address the most pressing parts of it to improve the situation. And one of the first things that I would say is simply a sit down meeting with the gentleman and
Yeah.
saying, here's where we're at. And we
Here's what
can't
we gotta have.
we can't go, we've got to make sure that you're punching correctly for what we even have listed right now, because
I'm gonna speak to
I have no problem with your thought on raising the prices and all of that, the one thing is the issue of when it's trash coming without being in a bag.
sure. Well,
How we measure that.
and I'm also throwing out there, I'm not, don't take me as saying, well, we got to raise the prices tomorrow.
No.
I'm saying that we have a revenue problem on a couple different fronts,
Yes,
and we have some expense problems too on the backside that I
Yes.
think it might not hurt to have a sit down with Casella as well and say, because I did some comparison of what other places are getting charged for disposal.
yeah,
Our disposal rates are
Higher.
are jacked.
Did you have something, Kevin? That
from the same company?
Well, compared to like if you were to just go into solid waste
Ah.
and drop a dumpster,
Gotcha.
there's a significant markup, which is what Casella does. Casella goes to the processing facility and drops it just like everybody else does.
Of course.
So there's a jacked up rate that we're getting charged for that process.
Gotcha.
Kevin, did you?
Well, for those of us who interact with our transfer station agents on a regular basis,
Attendees, yeah.
we all like them. But what we're asking them to do is police us.
Right.
Yes.
We're asking them, and it's a difficult position to put anybody in, to police your neighbors. So somehow, if we can eliminate that, I think we'd be ahead.
Yeah.
Somehow, if we could take that element out, we would be ahead. The problem I have, and I agree with George, this one avenue is maybe the weight. You come in and weigh. The problem is then you're going to have some, every time you go to the transfer station, you're going to have bills in your pocket. And you're going to have to, because there's going to be $100, $200, $300 punch ticket now. It's going to be, well, you owe us $12.73. And someone's going to have to be sitting there
up the
taking
hubbles.
change and making change.
Well, and the problem with that is we years ago made the decision we wanted the transfer station to be a cash free facility. We
Right.
didn't want cash over there.
That's it.
So
And I
The
think that's
auditors
still a good
recommended that.
option.
Right.
One of the thoughts that comes to mind is if we could tie weight to a punch card system.
Well, that'd be something we'd have to do some research on, cause
Yeah, but I mean, that's reasonable.
there's certainly a possibility, and if it weighs this much, it's this many punches. If you're in this range,
Yeah,
it's this
exactly.
many punches. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that idea. I think that, again, it's going to be retraining, and it's going to be
Oh, yeah.
labor intensive. There's going to be a
Very
labor
well could be.
element to it.
I have a quick question on that is, if you go to wait, now I don't go to the transfer station on Saturday because there's just too many people. So now the line you're gonna have for your garbage to get weighed, what I'm afraid of is Green Up Day up the Quarter Line Road will be a lot worse than it has been.
Well, there is that issue.
So that's the only thing, people don't like waiting in line, so if you only got one person weighing.
Yep.
So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, there is issues.
But I think we have to take some steps, short steps. And one of the things that I'm going to suggest is that, for instance, we get 3 different size bags that the normal person, those white ones that are what,
The kitchen
30
bag.
gallon.
The
Yes.
kitchen, less than 30.
Right.
They're like
And-
15.
Post those on a piece of plywood over there and say this many, if you have 3 of those white bags in it, like I usually do in my big garbage can, so I should have to have right now 3 punches. Well, sometimes you go over there and you hand them the card to do 1 punch and then talk about who's playing what football games. So
Well, and
it's an education for those guys that are working over there. So the first steps I would take. And
I agree with Kevin over there. You're asking these guys to police their neighbors, and it's a hard job to do.
Yes, but
It's a hard job to do.
they have to understand the responsibility as well. So I mean, they're adults for the most part. So I think that on a short term, instead of going out and looking to having contractors come in here and all this, that, and the other thing, what's established right now is the transfer station. We have 3 attendants over there. Let's continue the 3 days that we have it open. Let us go over there, maybe select board members or whoever, and sit there and say that, make sure they're punching, taking in, if somebody comes there with a big bag, that's 3 punches. So maybe it's a re-education thing for those attendants. So let's take, it should be our first step into trying to, I don't think it'll solve the problem 100%, but I think it'll go a little bit, to
Well,
help
it's
it.
anything that is going to improve it that we do, I think, but I still think that we're going to be on the short end of the stick.
we
What
are.
I'm thinking about as you guys are talking here is, on 2 occasions I was there. I tend to be there Saturday just before they close. I don't know why it works out
Sure.
that way, but of a pickup truck pulling in, and everything in the back of the pickup truck went into the compactor. I don't know how many punches were made,
yeah.
but how are they going to judge?
Well,
I've seen that twice
and I
now.
see that's a different scenario than Mike talking about, and I do the same thing. I roll up with my metal 50-gallon container, which should be 3 punches because
Yeah.
it's 50. It's a 50-gallon
Yep.
container, and whether it's loose or bagged, I just
Doesn't matter.
dump my container. At least you've got a container you can judge it by.
That's true.
But when you've got, like you say, a loose truck bed, it I think does take, standing there and, okay, they threw in 10 kitchen bags, okay, well, then it's 10 punches, or whatever. I think that there's...
The thing is, though, if we're gonna re-educate the guys who attending over there, then you have to also re-educate the public. And
Oh,
that's
sure.
why I'm saying if you have a display over there with, let it out and say, this requires 1 punch, this size can, retires, and we can't have a pickup truck go there and just loose garbage and throw it in there. You have to have it. So otherwise, we could come up with a plan to educate the public and say, if you drive over there with a pickup truck and it's just all loose garbage, then you're gonna get charged for, $10 for dumping your
Well,
garbage.
again, when it comes to loose stuff, like, reconstruction or, remodeling and stuff, I've loaded up I always have the SUV that I use for trash and everything else, my used truck. Go over to Hubbard's and you're on the scale and it
Yeah.
charges me by weight.
Yeah.
I mean, we can also tell people to go to Hubbard's, but I don't know how friendly that would be. And back to the policing issue, there are some folks in our town, I hate to say this, but I suspect that might push back a little bit. If I am told 3 punches, I'm gonna say, no, that's only worth 2 or whatever the heck I wanna say. And that puts our attendance over there to a tough spot.
But that's why if you have a display up there, just for
They
educational
can point to
purposes,
it, I guess, yeah.
then it doesn't have to be there for 2 years. It could just be there to educate the people, and then once people start, going along with the program, then you don't have to do that.
Well, but even with that, you're only talking about one side of the problem.
That's true.
Because we're not covering the recycling costs either. And the last time I checked, the metal rebate isn't even covering the trucking on the metal.
We got
And-
a rebate on 24, first one, I guess a long time, on $500 for metal.
Are we in a
Feedback
contract
was-
with Casella for the metal bin?
So
What's the question?
we dove into it, and our contract, and why I would say we may need to have a sit down and a conversation and kind of a renegotiation if possible, because we're getting dinged on. I mean, we've got rental fees for boxes over there, which if we're paying that much in rentals on boxes, we should have bought our own boxes a long time ago, because
Yep.
I
I
didn't
mean,
realize that.
we're buying boxes. We've probably bought boxes and bins multiple times over that we're paying monthly rentals on, to the tune of, $50, $75 just for the box to sit there.
A month.
Yeah. So that adds up.
And it's like the metal bin. There's a contractor that would put a metal bin in there and haul
And-
the way for nothing for the metal itself.
Or just say we don't take metal.
Well,
The-
there's a thought.
Your
But you're gonna
other,
find it alongside the road.
Yeah, that stuff will show up on my road.
Yeah.
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 Then you can collect it, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who's gonna pick it
affirm
up?
this.
You, then you call me.
One
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
reasons why we went from the dumpster that was outside the building here to up there is because we tried to transfer station at the time, we tried to stop all the dumping along the side of the road. Because
Yeah, that was part of it, and if I recall too, part of it, EPA come in and told us, well, you can't be doing some of these things and so on that were taking place out here,
yeah,
so we had to get somewhere else.
yeah.
That's the truth.
Because
Well,
it was
well, one of the prime example, I remember,
Rislin?
he was selectman there. Anyway,
Brassel.
Oh,
Glatz would come in,
Yeah.
and he was there, he had the 10-pound sledgehammer, he'd put it in a can and smash it. And pretty quick, there's glass all over the place.
Yeah.
Which that didn't work too well.
No.
But I mean, so I guess what I'm saying is we gotta look at the whole picture. The disposal is one piece of it, but the other side of it is too. And I realize as well that we gotta I think have a conversation with Casella.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the going rates are, but just for example, we're paying over $200 a month just for the zero sort compactor in rental fees.
The compactor itself.
The compactor itself. That's our lease fee just for so you've got, I think if I did my initial glance really quickly, you've got $400 and some odd worth of rental payments in our transfer station a month.
I'm paying about $350 for a cardboard baler at my country store a month.
So
If you're paying $200, I'll take that deal all day long.
yeah. Well, this isn't a bail. I mean, yeah, but
You know what I mean?
I know what you're
It's
saying.
A compactor.
It's a
basically.
compactor. Yeah. So what I'm saying is just, are there any of those expenses that we're looking at that,
We can eliminate.
well, or could be looked at, and I mean, maybe it pays for us to buy our own cardboard bin.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it pays for us to buy our own metal bin. Like, containers are for sale all the time, and you can buy them, and they're used, and a company goes out of business, and you buy a container and you spray paint it, and property of the town of Clarendon on the side, and then you just you pay somebody to haul, or Casella pay them to haul it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have no problem with that concept. It's a matter of
I got the answer. Cardboard. All of it go country stores. You already got it.
close.
Depends on the time of year. I might take you up on it. One thing we actually get money back for.
well, and
Cardboard and newsprint are the only things that you really get any money for. Everything else you're paying to get rid of now because there's no market for it.
the person that I talked to asked me what our rebate was on cardboard, and I said, we're paying for it. And they said, what do you mean you're paying for it? They said, there's rebates on cardboard right now. Why is the town paying to get rid of cardboard? So that's why I'm saying we need to sit down and have a conversation with Casella,
Absolutely.
because if there's a rebate and we're not
But we're
seeing
also
it,
bailing it, and we're
Correct.
getting money for the bail.
Your
Correct.
If
processing.
they've got to do the time and energy to bail it, then you're not going to get anything for it.
but my understanding is, which we are dropping it's getting dropped on the pad crushed, because it's crushed when it goes, and that's
Cardboard. Yes.
and that's what the person I talked to, they have an open container like ours, and they're crushing like we are, and they're getting the rebate because that's
Really?
what I was told. But I need to ask some clarifying questions, because is it
Well-
really just crushed, or are they bailing? That's the question. Because if it has to be bailed to get the rebate, that's a separate issue.
It looks to me like we got a couple of places that we could start. One would be to have this discussion with Casella, and I think we ought to get into that sooner than later.
Sure.
And then the second one is the issue of the punches and how many in the bags and all that sort of thing. And I agree with Mike on easing into that versus slamming in.
Sure.
And then the third piece is the issue of the policing by the attendees that are there. I mean, that's got to be talked about, and we need to have somebody that's can be friendly but strict, I guess.
Sure. Well,
And Harry, God bless the guy, he is a neat one individual, but he is, does the best he can, but, he's 95 or 6 or whatever it is.
Don't forget, you got number 4 too, which is how much people are paying for those cards.
Yes.
Yep.
That's number 4.
Yep.
You haven't got to that yet.
No.
And if you're going to jack up the price, if you got to double it, do it a third, and a third till you get there
Oh, yeah.
every year. I mean,
Yeah.
ease into it, make it a little easier. You'll lose some money each year, but it'll be less and less each year until you're finally covering your costs. It's easier
Yes.
on the
Well, for a while,
residents. and-
before we built the building up there, and but it was, the transfer station was up there. People were complaining about, well, how the hell come I gotta pay so much money, to dump it in the thing there? And then after a while, they became accustomed to it, and then you saw more and more people there, instead of dumping alongside the road. And
What are their options? How much does Hubbard charge? How much do they charge at Gleason Road? If you're still charging less than that, then they're making out and they don't have to drive as far. Well, unless they live by Hubbards.
Honest people,
If they live by Hubbards, they're probably not bringing their trash to the transfer station.
honest people are not gonna dump it on the side of the road.
That's
You're
true.
always gonna get people that are gonna do it, stupid people, but honest people aren't gonna dump it on the
I
side
think
of the road.
Alphresia and Quarter Line Road is not our townspeople as the most part.
Most likely.
Well, I know.
We
I
dropped the
know,
couch by the
Quarter
ball
Line
field.
Road, we have a lot of out of town.
Coming
here.
from other places.
That was free. Sign was on it, free.
We had a pop-up camper.
You didn't want
Yeah,
one? It was right,
camper.
you could've picked it up, it's near your house.
I learned way too much about bed bugs working for the housing trust. I don't ever want to pick up any furniture on the side of the road. Ever.
I agree with you, John.
But I mean, all of this I think has to be looked at. I think it's all going to
So-
be discussed.
So where do we start, I guess?
Well, I think that we give Casella a call and see if there's a possibility that we could have a special meeting or something with them and at least 3 select board members and have a
And we ought to have the
conversation.
treasurer and what.
Well, so before you get to that point, I'm going to make a recommendation. You've got to sit down, whether it's 3 of us or 2 of us or whatever, and you got to come up with a list of what you want to go into that meeting to discuss.
I agree with you.
Because it's not one that you're just going to wing and say, "Hey, come in and sit down," and then they're going to sit here and they're going to be like, "Well, what?"
Yeah.
And we need to have our list of.
But
we
we
under-
also want to have a gathering with our attendants over there.
Oh, absolutely.
And when I stopped in the other day, because I had to go to the transfer station, and then I was talking with Horst and Dave, Harry was off, and he said that Horst told me that he's trying to re-educate the guys that work over there.
Well, I don't wanna pin everything on Harry, because I've seen the other 2 do it too.
No, I'm not pinning
Not,
it on
not just
Harry.
Harry.
I'm not pinning it on Harry. I said Harry wasn't there.
I know,
What I'm
but
trying
it's,
to tell
his
you
name
is
has been mentioned a
that-
couple of times, that's
That
all I'm saying.
Horst is trying to educate all 3 of them as to how many punches they're supposed to have. It's not a case of picking on Harry.
The other question I know that came up, and I think this would require a select board member or 2 to take some shifts and sit over there and see what things look like, is does it really pay for it to be open the hours it's open? Because the question is if we're paying, two of our guys, and
We don't have to
between 9 and noon, you really are only getting 5 cars. Well, those 5 cars would come after afternoon. Like, are we really open when we need to be open? Are we really open? What's that look like? And a lot of towns that I see are only open 2 days a week, and we're open 3. So
And open a little later.
and we're open longer. So
Kevin, when you were over there, and I was there too, and George was there, what did you see relative to the amount of traffic coming in there?
Well, unfortunately, Tuesday had been closed down because of COVID.
Yeah.
So everybody who was coming on Tuesday turned around and drove away because the gates were closed. So on that Thursday, I got a lot of Tuesday traffic
You
and
can't judge
Thursday,
it.
regular Thursday traffic. So, I mean, it was steady all day, but a lot of people had come on Tuesday and turned around and drove away.
You're probably also going to find your hours need to be like a school bus driver. You need hours in the morning, you need hours in the end of the day. You don't need anything in the middle, but how are you going to
Yep.
get somebody to work those hours?
And what we have is mostly just hours in the middle.
Yep.
When-
that's the
like
issue.
a lot of the other towns in that packet or in that thing that's going around. Like they have one day that's 2 to 6, or
Yep.
and then Saturday is their long day.
Yep.
You have one day where you're open for a few hours in the morning, another day where you're open for a few hours in the afternoon, and then Saturday all day. And
Well, these
Well,
are
I
all
mean,
the
on
things to
Saturday,
consider.
longer hours on Saturday might make sense, because it's pretty damn busy most Saturdays. But I'm generally there, as I say, at the last minute.
but you get the people that want to go there in the morning, not on a Saturday, or after work, not on a Saturday.
Yeah. Well, after work, I mean, that's probably another prime time, I would think. You know, anytime after 3 to whatever, 6, 7, I guess.
Well, so do we want to, I guess, to strategically look at this? Do we want 2 select board members to be designated to look at what we need to take to Casella? 2 select board members to look at the hours and just kind of break it up so
Sure.
that we all
Yep.
take a part in doing some homework so
Sure.
we've got a path
Right.
forward.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
And maybe one person pulls double duty and we have 2 people talk about rates and what really should happen with the cards.
Sure.
So,
Because basically right now a punch is $1.
right now a punch is $1. Yep.
The only other way to do it is have a credit card machine.
Well,
So
more
who
and more
wants to do
people
what?
are doing nothing but credit cards. I guess, what is it, Killington is taking nothing but credit cards, or what do you call it? Not credit cards, but
You're
Debit
suggesting
cards.
that they go sit over to transfer.
Well, I'm saying two board members on each one of these. Somebody's gonna have to pull double duty, but 2 board members.
sure.
I'm willing to look at the Casella contract because I already started looking at it, so I'm willing to look at that.
I'm happy to work on that too.
Okay. Who wants to do hours?
Would that mean that you'd be over there the full time?
I'm not saying you gotta be over there the whole time, but I think we gotta do some research on when we're seeing it busy. So, and I'm thinking more than anything, we know Saturday's busy. I'm thinking more your
Tuesday and
Tuesday, Thursday. What are you seeing?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I don't mind doing probably a Thursdays,
okay.
and that's from 10 to 5.
Why don't we ask the guys that are there rather than have us sit there? I'm not sitting there all day. I got things to do. We got guys that are there, 3 guys that are there all the time.
So, Mike, you want to follow up with the guys
So
then?
what do we do a check hash list as each person?
Have them keep a hash list
Have a day, the day he works, he has a hash list. How many people?
for the hours.
Pretty hard, so
That works.
a check for every person that comes in
That
this
works.
time block. That
Just print
that
up.
time block.
Yeah.
I'll make a, what do you call it, matrix.
If they open at 10, from 10 to 11, how many hash marks you got? 11 to 12.
Yep. So maybe Ashley, would you be willing to work up a sheet and then Mike, you follow
Basically
up
have
with
a,
them?
Yeah.
basically have a calendar and put the time
Yep.
instead of the date.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm willing to go sit over there for a day if it is helpful.
Well, I think the hash mark idea is a really good idea.
So,
I mean, but if we're having issues punching a card, that's where I'm seeing where the hash mark. So
Yeah.
that'd be whoever's going to be speaking to them.
That
That's-
might give you an idea of the hash. Well, of course you can't find out how many cards they punched either.
And that leaves Cash and Art to do to talk about rates maybe for before next meeting. Our card rates.
and so it's not a shock. Instead of a $1 punch, make it a $2 punch. Instead of a $2 punch, have it a $3 punch. Just increase.
You almost got to double all the way through.
Yeah.
Go from $1 to 2 and then 2 to 4.
Well, that's why I think you got to look at it
Yeah. I don't.
because I think you're looking at like what John said. I think you're looking at a multi-year
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
where you need to be.
Yeah.
You're not looking at an overnight
You
fix.
don't want to get a sticker shock because then.
Well, you also want to be charged enough so that we're not cheaper than Hubbard's and stuff like that.
Well, sure.
So the best thing to do is maybe check Hubbard's rate and see what they're getting for bag and go from there.
I don't know if they're not doing punch cards though, are they? And the transfer
I
out
don't
front.
know how they do that.
Well, when you drive in to Hubbard's, right there, just as you get up the hill a little bit,
By the office.
they have opposite the office, they have a guy there in a truck or a bucket loader or something.
Right.
Is that a punch card system there?
No, well, I don't believe so. I think there's money.
Yeah. You got to go in the office and pay 'em.
Okay.
And then if you're going around the corner, you can get on the scale there.
Yeah. That's when you have the pickup truck.
Yeah. Well, I take my SUV and
Well,
load it
the
up.
car too. I did it
all
once
kinds
with the
of
car.
Okay.
I usually used to use the pickup truck.
Well, at least that gives us some direction of what we're going to look at before next meeting.
Okay. So when we wanna look at the contract, do you have a copy of it? And,
I've got a copy of it. You and I can connect. and
Is that a
we'll figure
one-year
out.
contract or 3?
Five.
Or 5?
5.
Ooh.
And you guys just
But
redid that last year.
there's nothing saying you can't talk about renegotiating at any point. I mean, it doesn't hurt to talk. Well, I guess it could if you're bored to death. All right, I think we got some action going on. There's no sign of Bronson yet, and you still got town plan on here. Do you wanna push it out another meeting, or what? John?
John likes coming here.
I don't know if I'll be able to make another meeting, but I'm already working 6 days a week this time of year till Christmas, so.
Is that where you're gonna have a red hat?
Red face for my blood pressure going up, maybe. But
Are you using the parking lot there at the cul-de-sac this year for
No.
parking? No.
oh God, no. We're so far down the number of people in that building. I'm not using all of my parking lot. For most of the summer, we let Atomic Audio use use a whole bunch of parking spaces right along the road. Don't need it anymore.
This Cold River, with, Fitzgerald, do you have anything that,
I do. I think we all need to discuss where you guys actually want to go with what Fitzgerald is doing versus what the HMGP grant is, has going on. I think there's a lot of discussion that needs to happen between you guys as to what you actually want Fitzgerald to be doing right now. Right now we have him doing a small portion of that river area, and it's just about sediment management in the future, which is what we discussed. I mean, in what I recall us all speaking about was it was supposed to be all of Cold River, and I guess I was mistaken on that. So
I thought we were all of Cold River from the Shrewsbury line to
Yep.
the creek.
yeah, tried to get Shrewsbury
This
to
is where
join?
I think we need to bring Fitzgerald in and get his take on.
Because
Sit
my
down
understanding,
with
it was the whole section.
right, and so that was my understanding as well until I've been diving into this for us to be able to somewhat qualify for this HMGP grant, which we do not qualify for. And I did have a meeting this morning with Maggie. Actually, Cash ended up coming in, which was good timing. He was there to sit on that also. So what Fitzgerald is doing does not directly benefit the hazard mitigation grant that's available because it is not specifically for keeping that bridge.
That type of project.
Which it specifically has to pertain to the Middle Road Bridge. Is that what we're saying?
Right.
Okay.
And that was to reinforce the bank on the south side and to pull that,
Yeah, and it needed to be a lot more than that, so that was pretty a small portion. It needed to be something that was going to start up quite a bit higher, work into the floodplain, and then, again, it's something that we need to work with Fitzgerald on. I think it'd be a good idea if we see next time he is in the area to, schedule a meeting when he's going to be here, that we can really kind of have a discussion on what we actually need him to do, and he's willing to come speak to us about that. So,
I mean, as long as two or three select board members, and obviously you as the road commissioner should definitely be there. I mean, whatever's got to happen. But I was under the impression that we were talking the whole segment, all the way from,
That's what I thought we were
yeah, and did you see the attachments that were in that email?
I did not look at the attachments. I saw the chain, but I didn't look at the attachments.
Yep, and I can send that to anybody interested. What is in there is pictures of the river, and there's just like segments that he has sectioned out. That is what he is working on. And again, it was my understanding that it was going from the Shrewsbury line right down to Creek Road. or
Because
to
we
the
said
Otter Creek.
if it's not gonna solve the whole distance, it's gonna just create more
Amplify it down
velocity
below.
and create more problems down lower.
Can he come to our next meeting?
I think I can ask him. We might be more apt to get him here during a day when he's actually
gonna
here
say,
working
this
on
is
the
more of
river.
a
Daytime thing,
Yeah.
and
Day thing.
my suggestion was, I guess, I think pretty much everybody here in the board available except for Robert. Is there any way you can do it around the Christmas holiday when you're out of school?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, we can, but again, you're just meeting with them to talk about the fact that it's supposed to be the whole section. I mean, you don't necessarily need me for that,
Right.
so that's not.
You're saying this doesn't qualify for that grant?
It does not qualify for the grant, and that was kind of where we were going. Was
We
the
kinda had
direction
an
from the
inkling of
beginning,
that in
Yeah.
the beginning. Yeah.
and then it was just we tried anyway, and
Well, I was gonna ask, my question was gonna be, what do you have to do to qualify for the grant?
we do not have the time frame in order to do that.
Have a plan in
Yep.
place.
Yep, we have to have
What
a
he's
plan.
doing will help us
In the future.
in the
future.
future.
No, I get
grant.
that, but I'm just
Not for
asking,
this
what would the town have to do to qualify to apply for the grant?
That's what we're doing.
Basically,
Having him do what he's doing is what we need to do.
it sounds
in order
like
to
Oh,
qualify.
okay.
if
All right,
this
got
work
it.
had been done like a year ago, we
a
probably
couple years
would.
ago.
But because it wasn't done, which we didn't know that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
the
no-
benefit cost
nobody's
analysis
fault.
is like one of the big main things that they need, and it's just not something that we have.
And that's gonna be a toughie. The benefit cost analysis to do the projects.
Yeah, sure.
Huge.
Sure.
And I think what we also need to discuss is the fact that this is not just for a particular landowner's property. I think it is, for the entire stretch.
Yep.
So when we are discussing things with Fitzgerald, they need to not just be looking again at that one section or speaking about one certain area.
So is that what the reading between the lines here? Are we talking that it really right now is very much zeroed in on one specific area?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And that's right west of the 7 bridges
Yeah.
to the railroad.
Bridge.
Yep.
It's just that section then. So I guess when we were initially contracting with him, were wires crossed somewhere that he didn't understand what we were asking for? Is that another? I mean, that's a question that's going to be asked of him.
Yeah. And we'll have to ask him that.
Because I know we had talked about once you get east of the 7 bridges, once you get up not very far above Carreras, it basically turns into ravine, and
It's
the fact
all ravine and ledge.
it's all ravine and ledge once you get above there. So it's basically where the ledge ends,
Yeah.
essentially
About
to
where Carreras is.
just above where Carreras is,
Yep.
just basically to Otter Creek is what we were talking about. Okay, so it sounds like he's got to widen out by probably double what he's done so far,
Oh,
at least.
that's only 10% of that area.
Okay, so he's got
That's only, yeah.
And
More than double.
So Cash and Art were at the meeting with them,
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, was it?
with him.
on site, or was that here?
On site.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm not sure
Kind
exactly.
of brought that stuff up, and it was like this section.
Okay. But if we're paying the bill,
Yeah.
I mean,
So ask him when he could
Yeah.
be available, and if it's during the day, whatever board members we can get, we'll get. And doesn't have to necessarily be on site, he can come right here to the office.
Yep.
At-
Right. Yeah, and he's been very helpful. He was trying to also, figure out a way to be able to help us get the grant that's available. And just so you guys and everyone else does know, the HMGP grant money has mostly gone to buyouts from the flooding that happened up north.
Sure.
More. She said it was about 98% buyouts.
yeah. Well, and when we went into it, we thought that was kind of what they
Would
were
be, yeah.
geared towards.
Right.
All right, moving right along. We have
Thank
the 20, thank you. We
Let's
have
talk
the-
about the schedule.
Yeah. How does this look to most of you guys?
Make a motion that we approve the updated schedule for 2025.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we're gonna post this, right?
Yep.
Put it on the website for sure.
Yep. And,
Town plan.
Town plan.
no, I don't see any,
It's after 7 o'clock.
yeah, he's not here.
Well, you had 5 members vote for the town plan and 1 that voted against it. And you're tying up the town plan to hear from the 1 person who voted against it.
Who didn't-
And quite honestly, I think it's a little bit insulting to those of us that worked hard on this town plan and the 5 of us that voted for it to hold it up for just 1 person. I know Bronson's opinion is he wants as little in the town plan as possible and as little in the zoning as possible. And that's basically his whole argument.
Well,
He wants
some-
it to be a bunch of mays and shoulds and very little shalls and wills. And that's basically his
Well over,
objection.
well over 20 years ago, Bronson, who was on the planning commission and I think was the chair, presented a town plan that he submitted to the select board that was 1 page. And he felt that that was adequate and probably still does.
You're right, he does. He's mentioned that in meetings.
I
There's a
call
couple
the
of-
question, Mr. Chairman.
There's a couple of acts that recently changed what needs to be in the plan, but basically if you go to Title 24, Section 4382, it'll tell you exactly what is required by law to be in the plan. And there's no way it's gonna be just 1 page.
Yep, I suspect not.
And that all came down from the state.
Well, I mean, that section has been updated. I don't even know how many times. If you look at the very end of it, you've got, it's been amended from 1967 until 2024. It's basically this whole paragraph is all the times that's been changed or added to or modified or whatever. So it's been evolving because of legislation throughout that time.
Now, the importance of having, obviously, the town plan is so that when we go for grants and things like this, we're asked, do you have a town plan? That's number 1. So,
Well, there's 2 things. First, it's a lot of grants are dependent on having a town plan. And the other thing is that without a town plan, you can't have zoning. Now, some people may be happy with that, but some people are not. And, like I said, the last time I was here, we're working on the zoning and we're trying to see if we can find ways of loosening things up a little bit based on just where the state of the world is right now. Somebody, I think at one of the meetings was saying there's 1 working dairy farm in town now, where else there used to be however many.
5 or 6.
And all that land is somewhat restricted. I mean, somewhat restricted by the state for what it can be used for, but somewhat restricted by our zoning, and we're trying to loosen that up a little bit so that folks who can't farm the land, maybe they can do something different with it.
Marcy, did you have a question?
Yes, I have 2 or 3 things. This town plan has bothered me, the way the procedure was done. Now, I've gotta say a couple things. John said they worked hard on the town plan. Well, on August the 5th, Carol made a motion to present the town plan draft as presented by Rutland Regional Planning Commission for the purpose of a public hearing. So, you worked hard on it, but you took everything Rutland Regional Planning put into it, and that was it. And when I went into Rutland Regional Planning notes, a lot of their input was done by the mayor of Rutland, Cedar. Anything you got in Rutland City was in there for the regional plan. So, okay, so Clarendon isn't separated from the regional Rutland Regional, which caters to Rutland City. You know, like John says, we don't have farms, so let's go to the zoning and let's see what we can do to the land. Let's leave the land alone. Clarendon is known for its beauty. We don't need, I mean, Lyle Jepson said, we need to take what's in the city and put it out in the towns. No, we don't. We don't need what's in the city out here. And this is my problem, is even here it says, send out draft of revised town plan to post 30 days before hearing. This comes from the Planning Commission. Last time John said I was a liar because that's not 30 days they have to wait. Well, you do.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, you did. But anyhow, the problem is nobody participates. Well, why don't we put this out where people can see it? There's the library, there's Neighborhood Watch, there's a historical society, there's a fire department, there's a rec department, there's senior meals, there's transfer station, there's the post office, and the Clarendon website. Talking about the Clarendon website, I copied the town plan as proposed to be accepted by the select board. There were no highlights at all. After the hearing here, somebody went in and highlighted the changes. That is unreal in my book. No, that's true because I have the town plan copied and there were no highlights on it until after the hearing. Then it was put in. I mean, I don't like this, you know, it's sad that Clarendon cannot have their people participate. The last town plan we did, 2014, Carol got a survey, Carol and Garrett, and they sent it out to everybody. The town plan was revised on some of that survey. They could have done the same thing this time. And I realize that I've been to some of the planning commission meetings, and they say, John, you do this. Now, John, you do that. They ask John to change, you know, what the state required is the only change, they say. Well, you got a typo on page 9. I mean, did anybody read through this? Had I had time, I would take my co-pilot, AI intelligence, and I would have put both plans, and they would have spit out every single dot and fly speck there. I just didn't have the time, because here we go, on October 14th, John came to the select board and said, there are no changes. Yes, you did. It's right in the minutes.
It's not what I said.
Well, it's in the minutes.
There were changes. I said there were changes. We added what
You
was
said the
required by
changes
law.
were the graphs and the update on the population and that kind of thing. You did not.
And what was required by law.
Yeah, but you didn't say there was any changes. You know what? If you change
Was
one,
I at a different meeting?
I don't know, John. You just you know, I'm not against you, John. I know you do a lot of work and they put a lot on your shoulders. And I do realize the town plan needs to be passed. I don't see the problem with the town plan, except I didn't have a chance to go over it. I was going on the fact that on TV, on PEG TV, it said there were no changes. And then he says at that same October 14th meeting, well, nobody came to the hearing at the Planning Commission, so therefore, I think it'll go right through on the select board. But the problem is, it's not the plan itself, it's the procedure getting here. I think the town plan should be passed tonight. You need to correct your typo. I didn't have a chance to go word for word, but it's the procedure getting here, because we're losing the town's input. And that's my only quarrel with this. It's not with the Planning Commission. I know they do a lot of work. It's hard over there. But also, I want to remind you guys that you voted, you select board, that any changes to the zoning would go before the voters. And I was there when they started changing that zoning. I remember Heidi says, I've got 8 acres, and if it's prime ag, I can't do anything with it. Well, we'll change that in zoning. So you can, you know, maybe subdivide it and build or whatever. I mean, the thing is, we need more people involved. I don't know how we're going to do it. There's all these places this stuff could be. And it could be presented to the select board like piecemeal, so you guys know some of the changes that are happening or what they think they're doing. They think they run the town. They say you don't run the town. I've heard them say it. And they got to realize they're nothing without the select board. They serve at your will.
Well,
And
back to the thing I was telling you about Bronson's many years ago in his town plan. It was my understanding that at that point, the select board dismissed the planning commission or fired him or whatever you want to say. I don't know if that was true or not, but that was what I've heard people say, so you were probably there.
Yes, I was. You were here too, Bob.
I was there too.
Yeah, but there was some other stuff going on behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah.
That would have gotten him into big legal problems. So that's personal, and I'm not gonna go down that road. But that's when Ralph was.
Well, I heard,
Sure.
listen to you very careful, my friend, and I think that you have some valid suggestions that I guess I, as one board member, would suggest that folks working on the zoning take the concerns into consideration and make whatever effort they think is necessary to get the town folks informed.
Well, I can tell you, I've had an issue with zoning, and one of my pet peeves, and I've asked every member of the planning commission at the time. I built a sugar house, and I built it 10 feet from the line, not realizing that it needed to be 20 feet from the line. And I said to them, why? Where did you get the 20 feet? Why is it not 25 feet? Why is it not 30 feet? Where did you get the 20 feet from? Nobody had an answer. If you don't have a reason, if you can't tell me why 20 feet as opposed to 10 or 5, then your zoning, as far as I'm concerned, is worthless.
Well, anyways, let's get back to the town plan. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the town plan as it's been presented to us.
Is there a second for discussion?
Before we second it, I guess what I would ask is, can we hear what the typo was? Because I heard there was a typo correction,
It's
so.
page 9, and it's got 9UPPORTT on page 9. I think it's just a typo.
Well,
So,
what's that reference?
Oh, instead of a 9, it's supposed to be an S and one less T. It's supposed to be support application for village center designations, and it's,
okay, so the correction of support.
Seems reasonable.
well, so there's plenty of places in this town plan that we did not touch where there's grammatical errors, minor grammatical errors, minor spelling errors, and I've told this board several times the reason why we tried to fast track this, and all the reasons for it. If we had spent the time to try to correct every grammatical error and wordsmith everything, and I think, as I mentioned last time, snarsky it, like we used to do on the school board, it would have taken a lot longer, and it was that way for 8 years. Right, this is recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
One more time. Other than adding what was required by law and changing data, which is numbers throughout the plan, charts. I think one of the things required by law was updates to a map or maybe another map. I can't remember exactly. It was one of the two. Other than that, nothing has changed. It's the same goals, it's the same ideas, it's the same everything. Other than refreshing it with new data that's available 8 years after. There's been a new census. There's been changes to the school system, the way that's set up. There's been laws that have been passed that have required changes. Those are the only things that were changed because we were trying to get this in place so that we had an active town plan for any grants that we're applying for. It could even affect this grant you guys were just talking about. if we don't have a town plan when you go to apply for this, you might be out of luck anyway. So regardless of, you know, what you may think, that is what I have said all along, repeatedly, in planning commission meetings and when I was in front of this board the last time.
Now, there's been a motion made,
And I will second it.
right, and with the, can you add to that with the correction?
Yeah, at least with the one correction, we'll catch one at least in the midst of it.
We can still make minor changes, you know, correcting some spelling errors, grammatical errors, without having to go through another hearing, without having to do, we're not changing anything substantially by just correcting some spelling errors here and there. So you can approve it with that, and it can get changed, and then we also still have to pick a picture for the front of it.
I'll amend my motion to reflect the necessary change that was mentioned.
Grammatic,
Yeah.
yours.
Yep, so I'm still good with the second.
All right, is there any further discussion? Thank you, Mark, for bringing that up. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Done. All right,
Thank you, Marjorie.
thank you,
You're welcome.
Marge, appreciate it.
Concerns?
Yeah. Did you have any concerns?
Nope.
George?
Nope.
Just wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. Hope that they have a good and safe holiday.
All right. Nothing. Good.
I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session
Second.
for 15.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Thanks, John.
opposed?